You had a bill last night on the Russia sanctions.
Yes.
What's the update on that?
Well, we were able to reach an agreement last night between myself and the ranking member of the Banking Committee, Sherrod Brown, and then Senator Corker and the ranking member of the Foreign Relations Committee, Ben Cardin. And so I think that is a positive sign that we've been able to build a bipartisan proposal that we think is a very strong step in.
What will it do?
Well, it's very, very complicated, but in essence, it will codify existing sanctions that are in place and authorize and in some cases require additional sanctions in other sectors, and then it sets up a process by which the President works with Congress as sanctions are imposed and as sanctions are proposed to be released in certain circumstances.
Do you think this is an adequate enough response to what happened with the Russian hackings that we're now hearing about?
Well, this response goes far beyond that. It goes. This legislation deals with the Ukraine, the Russia's actions in the Ukraine and the Crimea, as well as cybersecurity and other areas. And I believe that this is a very strong reaction. It gives very strong tools to the President and involves the Congress in this process at a much higher level.
And just quickly on this, is the White House on board with this?
I have not checked with them to see. I assume they will be, but we will see.
And last question, Dodd-Frank, the House moved a bill. What's the timing in terms of when the Senate Banking Committee will take up Dodd-Frank regulations?
We don't have a specific date or a time frame yet. I can tell you it is among our top two highest priorities, along with housing finance reform. We in the Senate have been approaching it a little differently, meaning that we're calling it economic growth, and we are encouraging input from all across the economic sectors in the United States to give suggestions as to how do we achieve stronger economic growth in America. You know, regulatory burdens right now, I think, are becoming one of the biggest drains on our ability to have greater growth. And so we've now received that, and our website, the Banking Committee's website, has that information on it for the public to review. We are going through that, and we are going to be building a strong package, which will include Dodd-Frank reforms as well as additional reforms. And that's a large undertaking, so I'm not going to tell you we're going to be done with that in a week or two. But it's something that we are working on aggressively to try to get finished and ready as soon as possible.
And just quickly, you just heard from the Treasury Secretary. You saw his report. You said at the hearing it was a good report. You were encouraged by it.
Yes, it was a very thorough report, and in fact, I need to go back over it a couple more times. But he was tasked by the President to look at our regulatory structure for the financial system. He, and not just he, but FSOC and other regulators and experts have done so. They consulted with us many times. I asked them to be sure they made legislative recommendations as well as regulatory reform proposals they could achieve themselves, and they did that. And it literally is a very thorough review that suggests where we can be better. Let me give you just one example. Right now, following the financial crisis, we have regulated all banks in the entire system as though they were the culprits and the cause of the regulatory problems or of the financial problems that we faced, which means that small banks like community banks and credit unions are facing burdens that are forcing them to either go out of business or to be purchased or bought out. And we're losing, in the case of community banks, we're losing community banks all across this country at increasingly alarming levels. Addressing that in terms of saying, wait a minute, these banks didn't cause the problem. They don't represent the systemic threat that the large banks do. So let's tailor the regulatory burdens on them to make it more realistic. And that kind of thing is what was proposed and what we hope to achieve across the board.